This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
It's Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast for Tuesday, May 16th, and I'm not sure I've ever been happier to be back in the studio.
Really?
Relieved that it worked
that we made it
pretty
out
well today, broadcasting at Belleville Police Service. Very intimidating.
I said that to Chief Callaghan after the show was pretty well done. I was nervous going this morning. I wasn't fibbing. There was that, and that's part of this week, right? It's National Police Week. That's why we were there. The theme is building bridges, coming together in a partnership with police services and communities. So coming together, working as one. Right. But there is an element of intimidation when you see an officer. Do you not feel it?
Oh, yeah. No,
in their
that's
uniform
natural.
and their equipment. So to go to their home base where there was going to be all of them, there was that little bit of me that was like, oh, this is going to, got to be on my best behavior. Don't want to seem ridiculous asking silly questions, as I'm sure I did with the forensics. But I have to say, once we stepped through those doors, I was pleasantly surprised at how inviting and how comfortable we felt. It was very nice. So kudos to Chief and his staff for doing that, creating that space. Feeling
on the way in is far different than the one on the way out. And I'd said to them, you know, the level of commitment to a job well done. Now, for me to say, you know, surprised me, would you maybe think they weren't committed? But if you knew the amount of people who were in that building at 7 o'clock in the morning just for meetings, and they're all there, dressed, spit and polish, ready to go at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it's not 9 to 5. You know, they got stuff to do. And they're there bright and early, and there's a lot of them, and they were all happy to stop by the broadcast community center that we had, shake hands, say hi, the tours. It was and
a big thank you for the stuff they do.
Yeah.
It's incredible stuff. It was very educational today to talk to staff sergeants and the inspectors and the police who the police members who were in there this morning to speak to us and hear about their jobs and just talk to them, even as, and this sounds silly, but even as individuals, just as people, to talk to them. It was pretty awesome. So thank you to everybody. Yeah.
Well, one of them said, oh my gosh, I listened to you guys. Like, wow, well, you've arrested me. Yeah, like, what do you say, right? No, they haven't.
Because there's that part, too, that you hope you never see them.
Yeah, I never want to see you at your work.
Exactly. You hope that you never, other than to say hello to them perhaps on the street, you don't want your interactions to be too often, perhaps, or too in depth. So it was nice. Sherry Meeks, of course, Inspector Sherry Meeks, we've spoken to before, and she stopped by, and she's always a great chat, and she's always fun to be around. But she did give us some insight into her position there. She is now in charge of operations, and her counterpart, Renee. It was funny how he described it. He looks after everything people don't see, and Sherry looks after everything people do see. To see behind the scenes, forensics. Oh, thank you, Chief Callaghan and Kelly, who took us through. It is fascinating.
Forensics,
It is so cool. So cool. And it shocked me. It doesn't take a half hour. You can't solve things
it doesn't take 48 minutes with commercials.
One of the ridiculous aspects of this morning.
We did ask, like, okay, so like on TV.
How much is real?
Virtually all of them roll their eyes. It's like some of them get it right. You know, like even Chief Callaghan talked about the show Blue Bloods, and he said it's not the policing that they necessarily get right, but they tackle a lot of the moral issues that police go through when they have to make life-changing or in some cases life-ending decisions. How do you deal with that morally and the emotional impact it has on policing? He said that show does that very well. So that's sort of behind the scenes what they look at.
He's very much like Tom Selleck.
Yeah, exactly. Spitting image.
Yeah. So thank you, Chief Callaghan.
And from a Blue Bloods, you know, his wife is a prosecutor, and both of his sons are police
officers in Ottawa. Yeah. And speaking of Ottawa, that kind of played into the theme this week because there was a lot of discussion. We had some pretty great talks this morning with Chief Callaghan and his staff. The tragedy last week in Ottawa, the loss of a police officer in the line of duty. Again, ties in well with what this week, the purpose of this week, bringing communities and police services together. That reminder of, these guys put their lives on the line every time they go out. Mm-hmm. And it isn't always a happy ending. And their commitment to the community every day, day in, day out, how it doesn't stop them. They want to do this. It's their passion. It's this drive to do better and to create these communities and to help these people. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, it is. So we appreciate that. So thank you. We'll have more about that. We've got some of the stuff we taped along the way. We'll have it in the podcast. We'll have it on the show later on this week. But right now, I'm just so exhausted. So
I know you were worried about this morning
because we had Doers Donuts.
Yes,
we had Chief Callaghan's wife Terry, who is a remarkable chef.
Yes.
Who made banana chocolate chip muffins. She knew it was just the two of us, and she made 12. Now, maybe the rest were supposed to be left behind, but I took it as a challenge. So
how many did you have?
No, I had one.
Okay.
But I could have just kept going.
Well, and I brought one back for Steve too, who was running the show back here in the studio. So big thank you to Steve Bowen as well, who helped us out this morning.
So we appreciate that. That was really good. What else we got going on? That was
I don't know. That was kind of all-consuming this morning. I'm with you. I'm glad we made it through. I want to go back, though. Don't you want to go back? Spend
a little bit more time. It was like Narnia to me, because I know roughly the footprint of the building, how large it is. But you get walking, and at one point I said, I thought we'd be at the garage by now. We've already been here, haven't we? It's like we just walked through the same door and it's a whole other wing.
You drive around that building, college in Sydney, you go around that, and I don't know how many times I've been around that corner. I've seen the building
all the time
for years.
Yeah.
But to be in it, it's huge.
It's massive.
Huge. And the people you run into in the different departments, it was like, okay, here's forensics. Well, then there's like 3 or 4 other doors off of it that take you in different directions. And at one point we did a loop. I don't know how we did the loop.
Yeah, I don't know where we
But we went into the gym too, and that's where we ran into Pat.
Yeah, Pat Como. Yeah,
and he showed us the taser.
Long-time officer. Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Very interesting, though, how I almost laughed out loud because you give them the warning.
Yep.
How they've started to, now that tasers they upgrade every year. So if there's an issue with it, they try to improve it, the manufacturers. So one of the new features is you can actually just do like the little zzz to give them a warning. So you know what, we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But if you continue behaving the way you're behaving, we're going to use the taser.
Right, up to you.
And then they stop. And I thought, that is fantastic.
That's the other thing they say, because we don't want to use it.
No, they don't. It's kind of like the last resort.
If you hearing that de-escalates it, then that's what
we're going to do it. And that's what they would prefer to do.
That far prefer it.
Although, using the taser, I don't know.
Why?
Not on any individual. I don't want to use it on anyone, but it's kind of cool. I don't know. There's just, it's kind of cool.
You've been on that. Since we said we were going to do it, Charity's first thing is, I want to tase Mark. Why?
No, I don't want to tase you necessarily. If given the opportunity and a volunteer was needed and you volunteered, I wouldn't say no. But I would feel a little guilty. I wouldn't want to hurt you.
I'm way too old.
You don't have the urge to just try it? Not on anyone, but just try it.
Well, like against a wall.
Yeah. Because that's what they have. They have the cutouts, the targets, so you can work on, because there's a certain area that you should use it on too. Yeah. So you can target practice essentially. Exactly. You wouldn't want to try it?
Not really. No. I don't know.
Oh.
I guess I'm too much of a pacifist, I suppose. Maybe.
I guess I'm not.
Peace war? Yeah, you're just a warmonger.
Like I said, I don't want to use it necessarily on any person.
Okay.
I just think it'd be kind of cool.
See, I like to solve my crimes by writing. Like, I go back to Miss Marple with Agatha Christie. Miss Marple didn't tase anybody. She just figured it out, and they got arrested.
Can we mention the revolver, though? You mentioned Miss Marple going back a few years. So they've just had a revolver donated to them.
We can just back up just a second. When you go down the hallways, they have display cases of memorabilia from, like 150 years worth of policing in Belleville.
18 something?
Yeah.
And it's being added to their collection? So it's pretty cool.
They've all the guts taken out, like you can't fire.
No.
But it looks like a movie prop from a Western of 100 years ago. It's a legitimate. And the chief, it was so funny, it said like they'd pass it around. So, Mark,
You
you're
come
off
off shift, yeah.
and say, oh, here's my gun. You give it to the next,
And he would use it.
Yeah.
On
this
his shift.
notion of everything
No
just got
safety,
shared.
nothing to it, just this little gun that would be passed around. And now it'll be added to their
etiquette,
their
of course,
display.
is that you fill up the bullets if you used any.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah.
Etiquette, and then just hand it over. Hey, I got to go out. Where's the gun? Here's the gun.
But they did the upgrades and moved 3 years ago.
Yeah, coming up, it'll be 3 years in October.
Quite a building.
And Chief Callaghan, here's what we didn't know. When he was the deputy chief, his main job as deputy chief at that time was design of that building.
Oh.
And he talked about, some of the things he had to fight to keep in, and some of the things he'd seen in Ottawa and throughout. And isn't that the best way to do it? You hear of, one detachment who built and did something unique, and they went, oh, I would always do that in mine if I could, including an emergency button right at the front door. If you are out and about, if you are being chased in a car, if you're being chased by an individual and you live in East Hill, run to the police station, open the door, hit the red button. And I'm not saying that casually. I mean, if you are truly in a situation where you think, where am I going to go? I'm being chased. You're in an abusive situation. The door automatically locks and a police officer comes to the front door.
Yeah.
There's no fumbling for a phone. If you're out and about in that neighborhood, and because Chief Callaghan said when he was an officer, it literally happened where somebody was killed in front of the police station because
they were trying to get in because the doors are locked.
That's
you can't just walk into the police station. You do have to be buzzed in. But if you're in need of an officer, you can hit that button and the door will lock behind you. And there's certain rooms where, like the garage, for instance, where only one door will be open. If you have that door open, the other ones won't. It's a one-door corridor, so you have to close one in order to open the next one. It was fascinating. We joked with Minnie Verberg from the Quinte Film Alternative, who was part of the chamber tour that they had when they first opened, who, like us, learned today that in the cells, the concrete, they're slabs. I wouldn't even call them beds, but they're spots where benches where you can sit, but they are concrete, are actually heated. You put your hand on them. They've got hot water underneath them, just circulating, so they stay warm. So you don't need blankets necessarily. And if someone goes in who's intoxicated or high and they need to come down, they can lay down and sleep. And Chief Callaghan said that's the best thing you want. You put them on a warm surface and they're going to go right to sleep and they'll sleep it off.
So before you think, well, wait a minute, why are we making them comfortable? No, we want to de-escalate a situation, get them as cooperative as possible so we can get them out. So it's like a lot of thinking going on, not just putting it in.
And it's all about de-escalation and helping the people that come through their doors. That was the big message I took away from this morning. It wasn't necessarily, you've done a crime, now you have to pay for it. It's more a case of, okay, yes, you have committed an offense, perhaps, something has happened, you need to stay here for your own safety and, yes, the safety of others, but we're going to help you. It's all about helping the individual. And that was pretty neat. And
part of it, too, in a lot of the overshadowing was what happened in Ottawa. And as the chief said, he was in Ottawa for a very long time and has raised his family there, and his two sons are still officers in Ottawa with what happened with the individual that phoned in the incident and then stood there with a
crank call. It wasn't even
with a rifle, high-powered rifle,
waiting for them to come in.
Sniped at 3 officers, killed 1. And a couple of
injured 2 others.
2 others that were there, and Mike was very forthright in saying, it's never been like this. It's never been like this against police officers.
I think we all feel it too. The tone towards police officers and the feeling towards them.
It's kind of a thing in society, and you don't have to go much farther than reading social media to know there's just a lot of anger in people, and we act out in violent ways. And so who's the front end people? You got your police officers, you got your fires, you got your EMTs, you got your members of the military, that get targeted by angry individuals. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I really hope it all just calms down at some point. And I don't know, if us broadcasting there brought that to light, great, because that's all we want to do. We don't want anybody to get arrested. We're not looking to put people on pedestals. We want to have a wonderful community that is a great place to live. And that's the other thing. It is a great place. We have a wonderful quality of life here.
We're very fortunate
in
to
the
be
Quinte
in this
region.
area.
And we have very little to be all upset about. Not saying that we don't have things that we would like to see better. Of course we do. But there is no reason in our community to take violent steps to change anything. Relax. There's more than enough good ways to get things done, more than enough services to help people, and more than enough people you can talk to get things done better.
And that was really what the chief wanted to get out this morning, the message of we want to work with our communities. We want to work with them. We want to we already have a great place to live. Let's keep it that way, even make it better if we can.
Sure.
And police services are there to help move us forward. And if there is a moment where you have maybe a negative interaction, it wasn't as positive as you'd hoped with one of the officers, let him know. Let them know.
Yep.
He wants to know about it, and maybe they can turn it around. Maybe they can make it a positive one.
He was adamant about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I know, for example, coming up in the fall, they're going to have a public information session where they're going to be implementing some of their new policies and a 5-year plan and all these sorts of things that they want community input. The last time they did it in 2019, 2 people showed up. 2 people showed up for the public information.
How are they supposed to do better?
Yeah.
If the community, if members of the community don't step up and say, you know what, I'd really like this, or I didn't feel safe here, or maybe is there somewhere we can work together to help this area? Like, how do you want them to help you, to serve you? If they don't know, they can't do it.
And they're giving you every opportunity.
Yeah.
And I doubt I would ever go because I've never had a concern with police. But if you do have a concern with the police, and I'm not saying you don't or that it isn't warranted, absolutely. But that's the opportunity to go. And they want to give you every opportunity. And, you know, I don't know, Mike Callaghan's about as open a police chief I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
He's a pretty personable guy and pretty even keel and very smart and very committed to the community, as is Chris Berry, the deputy. And Jeremy Ashley, who I met, is staff sergeant now.
Yes,
I know him
got
when he
to
was at
meet him
the
this morning.
Intelligencer, right? So
to go from media to the police services, that was one of the questions we asked him, because I don't know, walking around there today, I thought, oh gosh, these guys, I don't know how they do it. I couldn't do it. So for Jeremy to make that switch, to go from media, the paper, and become an officer himself, that's pretty amazing.
And he's climbing the ranks, but he has a lot of the same
Staff
characteristics that are very good journalists also make very good police officers.
It did cross over.
They're curious. They like people. They want to get to the truth. They write all these things. It's not just a power play about, I wrote it so I'm right, or I'm an officer so I dictate. No, it's like, let's get to the bottom of the truth and let's make things better. Let's get involved with people. That's what this community is. That's why we want to live in this area. Nobody wants to leave. We love this area.
So when it comes up in the fall, when that night comes around, make sure you mark it on your calendar. And we'll have Chief Callaghan on, I'm sure, to talk about it as we get closer to it.
And we're going to get him on a podcast, too, because as we'd mentioned before, he rose through the ranks through forensics, which is a new way to do it. I mean, the old way, of course, was just, you're a flat foot. You're on patrol, and then you moved up.
You work your way up the ladder, so to speak.
Sergeant, maybe a detective, and then you were the chief. But nobody ever came up through the laboratory. Well, that's changed now.
Yes.
And that includes a gentleman at the back who does all the digital. When the computers come in,
we didn't really get to talk to him.
He rips those things apart. That's so fascinating.
You see it more. And I think fascinating for you because you're writing mysteries now. I think you could really use some of that stuff.
Oh, I could.
You see it in the shows where not only is it necessarily a carbon footprint that you leave physically maybe at a scene, but now there's the digital footprint that all of us leave whenever we search for something or we send something. There are codes and ways to backtrack and to figure out where it came from. So he said, when I'm done with it, it's all in pieces. It's just you gotta go back through and pull it apart.
You're not getting
like
that
anything.
back.
So he's retired and now he's come back to kind of train and help moving forward. But it's so fascinating.
Very
so fascinating.
Very, very interesting. Anyway, we can't thank them enough, and they have done more than enough to thank us enough, believe me. They were very, very kind today. So coming up tomorrow on the show, as we mentioned, Minnie Verberg is going to be here from the Quinte Film Alternative, one of their movies tomorrow, which is, we talk about small movies, Anna Kendrick's in this one.
Yeah.
And it is a very difficult discussion around psychological abuse in relationships. Big star, takes place in Canada. So we'll talk more about Annie Kendrick's movie that's going to be at the Empire Theater tomorrow, 2 and 7. Get your tickets, Minnie, on the show tomorrow morning.
Dancing with the Stars coming up a week from Friday. It's almost here, and we'll have tickets again up for grabs with Galaxy of Games. What do we have for Galaxy of Games tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have...
with the Police Week, is it?
Loop.
Okay.
No, we have Endless Loop.
Because we had our police theme song this morning, our backwards song. Tomorrow it's an Endless Loop.
It's an Endless Loop.
Okay, so we got to play the Endless Loop 7:15 with Galaxy of Games.
And also then we'll be getting into our Throwback Thursday in honor of police.
Yes.
Oh, we gave it away. But we're going to have a
We don't know what songs it's going to be, though.
A couple of good songs for you to choose from. It's Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast. Enjoy your day today. Be safe, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 95.5 Hits FM.